Hey everybody, and good Monday evening. Welcome back to Weather for Weather Geeks. Hope you had a good weekend. As we kicked off a new work week today, we had a lot of clouds around. It was a pretty gloomy, fairly typical early December day across northeast Ohio and western PA. Before we get to the details on the forecast and the month of December, let's put a bow on the month of November, which was a cold one compared to the average, 5.1 degrees below average. Really unusual for 2019, which of course has been a very warm year, as I've been talking about frequently in this video. March and November, the only months of this year that have been colder than average. We finished the month with a high of 41 on Saturday, which, yeah, it's a degree or two below the average. Speaking of averages, now that we're into meteorological winter or climatological winter, December, January, February, the three coldest months of the year. And our averages, of course, keep falling as we go through December, starting in the lower 40s and then bottoming out at 32 in January. There's about a 2-week stretch between about the 6th and like the 21st, 22nd of January, in which our average high is only 32 degrees. Average lows are in the upper teens. Those are just averages, of course. They're based on 30 years worth of data. We'll actually get fresh 30-year averages in 2021 once the 1990 to 2020 time frame is activated for our averages. We'll probably see some pretty significant jumps upward in some months and on some days of the year because, of course, of the warming that's taken place over the last couple of decades. And speaking of the warming over the last few decades, dating back 30 years, the winter season is the season that is warming the most rapidly, especially January and February, but even December is about 2 degrees warmer than it was 30 years ago, back in the late 80s. This is one of those things that is not exclusive to us. A lot of places across the lower 48 states and a lot of the northern hemisphere, the most rapid warming has occurred in the cold season, in the winter season. Well, a year ago it was not cold. A year ago on this date it was 63 degrees. Not a record, but one of our highest temperatures on record for this date. Doesn't that sound nice? Wouldn't it be nice if we had some 60s in the forecast anytime soon? Unfortunately, that is not the case. Today was one of those reverse days where we reached our high early in the day and our low occurred, I should say, when our high usually occurs. That is mid to late afternoon. No snow today, even though there were some random flakes mixed in with the mist and drizzle earlier on today. Radar's pretty quiet. I went out to move my car after the 6 o'clock news, and it's just misting, very fine mist in some spots. Nothing that is of note or of impact, but that may change later on tonight. We'll talk about that in a second. In the meantime, I wanted to zoom out and show you an impactful winter storm in New England this evening. This has already done quite a number on parts of New England and the northeastern U.S. with 6 to 12 inches of snow. Pretty common across western and central New York, the northern tier of PA, northern and western suburbs of New York City, also the northern and western suburbs of Boston. Albany did really well with this. That was kind of the sweet spot of this, from Syracuse over to Albany on the New York State Thruway. That's I-90. That was really the sweet spot. So our old friend Jess Briganti up there in Albany really had to deal with quite a winter storm, an early season winter storm in that part of the country. And what will fall from here on out will be mostly concentrated in coastal New England, around the Boston area, and then heading up into down east Maine and up into coastal sections of Maine and Nova Scotia as well. All right, let's talk about our forecast here over the next couple of days. And look at that, our latest in-house model here does not want to show me any precipitation. Oh, there it is. It's just going to take its time loading. This dashed black line, when you see this on a weather map, that's a trough of low pressure. Not quite a cold front, but a little weather disturbance. This is going to come through tomorrow afternoon. Now, before we get to this point, tomorrow morning, I do want to make note of the fact that it's going to be around 30 degrees as the day gets underway, and I think there might be some mist and some drizzle in some spots as Tuesday starts. I don't think it's a big problem maker, but a little glaze on your windshield, maybe on your railings, non-paved surface, that's something I can't rule out at the start of the day tomorrow. Bulk of the day just cloudy and uneventful, and with this little trough pushing through, I think we will see some legitimate snowflakes falling out of those clouds late in the afternoon, early in the evening. That could lead to some coatings of snow, maybe a couple of slick spots early on Tuesday evening. No big accumulations, but maybe enough to be a little bit impactful. Another one of those disturbances will come down and pivot through the Great Lakes Wednesday afternoon. We'll see a resurgence of snow showers, I think, during the second half of the day. Much like tomorrow's disturbance, I don't think this is high impact, but maybe some fresh coatings in some spots, kind of the same time frame, second half of the day on Wednesday. And then clouds may try to break for a little sunshine Thursday. We may see some intervals of sun Friday it's a real cloudy time of the year around here, so any sunshine, we should really soak it up. If you want to take care of the outdoor lights, outdoor decorating over the next several days, your best bets are probably Friday and over the weekend. I think Saturday and Sunday are both relatively uneventful weather days. I just don't see a lot of cold on the playing field as we go into mid-December. Some fairly typical December weather, yes, there's going to be some seasonably cold days. Real harsh cold, the kind of cold that we sometimes see in December around here, I don't see it happening. This is the 6 to 10 day outlook, and then here's the 8 to 14 day. The nation is flooded by Pacific air here. In other words, our air originating out here, crossing the country like this, instead of originating up here and diving in from the north. So it's a Pacific regime, and that just means we're going to have a hard time seeing sustained cold, unusual cold that is atypical for December. Some typical December cold, some seasonable cold. Yeah, we're going to have days like that occasionally. We're also going to have some occasionally fairly mild days, I think, during mid-December. So this is probably going to play out a lot like 2018 did, with a pretty cold November and a fairly ho-hum December, temperature-wise and perhaps snow-wise as well. Also, just a quick reminder before I leave you this evening, I almost forgot, our winter forecast updates coming up on Thursday. 21 News at 6 and 11 here on Weather for Weather Geeks. I'll do an update on our winter forecast, which came out about a month ago. I usually do an update in early December. Sometimes I have to change things fairly significantly, sometimes not. I'm kind of suspecting I'm not going to have to change much this year, but I'll be looking at the data over the next few days and bringing you a full update on what to expect temperature-wise and snow-wise during winter this year. And we're now into meteorological winter, so the clock is running, if you will. Our forecast, we're now in the time where our forecast is active, and hopefully we'll have a good forecast this year. Last year's winter forecast was pretty good until February, which was much warmer than expected. Hopefully we'll do a little better this year. So again, look for an update Thursday evening. Thanks for watching tonight's Weather for Weather Geeks.